What is up, guys? A little big Monday here in college basketball. Big game breakdown as we get the San Jose State Spartans in the North Dakota State Bison here going at it. -3, 137.5 being the total. Old Mountain West and Summit League action. Interesting matchup. One, because for North Dakota State here, their last game was actually against San Jose State. They've taken a little bit of break, haven't played since late November, whereas it's not the same side for San Jose State. They've actually played 2 games, 2 losses against Cal Poly and Montana. And the way I'm going after this, because they just played recently, I think that actually helps the defensive side of things. That's one thing I've noticed in college basketball when 2 teams go back at each other in a short kind of split in between games. And sure enough, San Jose State, their last time out, just 58 points. They're also playing, 3 straight road games. And North Dakota State, 65 points last time out. Both offenses not very good. Both tempos, how fast they go up and down the court, possessions in this game, I project it to be very, very low. They're both in the 300s in adjusted tempo. Therefore, I don't know. I think we get like 60, 64 possessions, something in the low 60s. And these two offenses just aren't good enough to score enough points to get into the 140s. So we get 137.5 as the total, 8 p.m. Eastern. Hey, I know a lot of people not liking unders, but I'm betting this game towards the unders, guys. Whatever gets us to the window, cashing the tickets is the way I'm going. And for those reasons, guys, not good enough offenses here and not enough possessions. 137.5 as the total. Spartans and Bison, it stays under. San Jose State, North Dakota State, bet it to the under tonight, guys.
Let's do a big game breakdown, guys, from the Big Ten, and all due respect to the other teams in action on Monday. This is really the only marquee matchup on the slate. Iowa taking on Purdue. Now, the new college basketball rankings haven't come out yet, but we know the Boilermakers are going to drop from the #1 spot. They lost last time out, 92-88 at Northwestern as 5-point favorites. Game did go to overtime, and a fun little tidbit. Second year in a row that Purdue lost to Northwestern when ranked as the #1 team in the country. Now, the natural instinct of most bettors here is going to be wanting to jump on Purdue off a loss. But got a word of caution for you. Boilermakers have failed to cover 11 of their last 12 games in the month of December. They're also 0-3 against the number their last 3 times as home chalk of 12.5 to 15 points. That's the range they're in tonight. So let's move to the total. And it's no surprise that we've got a really high number here because per Ken Palm, you've got 2 of the 15 most in all of college basketball here. Purdue, #4 in that category. Iowa, #15. In terms of points per game, Iowa actually with the edge here, 90.7 points per game. They went over 100 against North Florida this past weekend, but not North Florida that the Hawkeyes are up against here. It's Purdue off a loss, like I said. The Boilermakers also happen to be top 10 in the country in defensive efficiency. So I mentioned that Purdue Northwestern game went to overtime. Let's make note then that the Boilermakers have not scored more than 78 themselves in regulation 4 of the last 5 games. For this game to go over such a high total, the Boilermakers would almost certainly need to top 78. Drew talked about in his big game breakdown how people are a little scared of backing unders. Hey, this is a really scary under, but I'm going to get in front of that bus, even though these two teams are a combined 11-4 to the over. For what it's worth, the market agrees with me. You look at the WagerTalk.com odds screen, the total for this game has been bet down from that opening number of 166.5. Current number still would easily be the highest over-under for any Purdue game this season. A lean to the under in Purdue, Iowa, Monday night.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and change up what I had prepared to say because I was going to start with talking about the side in this game and end up talking about the under. But, we actually don't really communicate the entirety of what we're going to discuss in these prior. So I had no idea that the other two guys were going to come out here on the big game breakdown and jump in front of that under train. But hey, let's make it 3 times in a row here. I do think that I have to mention the sides in this game because I do think it's an interesting look. I mean, Cal Poly's just 3-5 on the year, and they are coming off a loss. But you look at the game before that, they actually beat that San Jose State team that we heard about earlier in overtime and they trailed by 11 points right before halftime and then trailed again by 6 points with just over a minute left in the game. So they came back to tie that game and win in overtime. I mean, and Kobe Sanders was the MVP of that game. He put up 22 points and only played 28 minutes, including the overtime. So definitely was efficient there from the field. So there is a little bit of potential there. But you look at the Oregon State team. I mean, they're 4-3 on the year, so they got a winning record. They are coming off a nice win against UC Davis. But the one thing that really stood out to me here that kind of got me off the side, in all honesty, is the fact that this Oregon State team has been 100% different at home compared to what they've done on the road. I mean, 4-3, as I mentioned in their record. Well, they're 4-0 straight up at home. One of those games wasn't lined against a lower division opponent, but 2-1 against the spread in those games, including back-to-back wins, and they're winning by nearly 15 points per game. But two of those did take overtime, and I don't really have the confidence in this Oregon State offense, to be honest. They do have a history in the recent years of playing down to the level of their opponent. They're just 1-8 against the spread in the last 2 years versus teams with a winning record. And they're just 3-14 against the spread as a favorite in the last 3 years. And they're just barely winning those games, just over 2 points per game on average. But that the Beavers team, like I mentioned, has really been reliant on their defense. They're holding opponents to 40% shooting. That number's even better at home, 35% from the field. And they've been impressive against the 3-point shots. They're 82nd in the country there. And you think about how many Division I college basketball teams we have, 82nd is actually, near the top of the percentages there. But the offense has really struggled on almost every level. I mean, there's only 3 teams in the entire country that have scored a higher percentage of their points from the free throw line. So, Cal Poly does have a little bit of a fouling issue. So there may be an opportunity there to take advantage of for Oregon State at the game if for some reason this game does stay close. And I think it may, because I don't think we're going to see too many points, like I said. I do lean with the under in this one as well. We're going to go for 3 in a row, and the tempo is a big factor here. Both of these teams are lower in the rankings in their tempo in the bottom half of the league, and the lack of offense from really either team, makes me have to lean with this under here, even though we're sitting at a relatively low total, sitting at 133. I'm still going with the under tonight in this Cal Poly Oregon State game.
What is up, guys? Best bet time, and we're talking a little Arkansas State versus Alabama on the hardwood for Big Monday, and I'm going after this total here, guys. Over 163. That was the number in the overnights. I released it in the free plays, which I'm normally doing each and every night in college basketball. If you want to check out my page, Drew Martin, WagerTalk.com. We have seen some money come in on it. It's now 164.5 as we're recording 2 o'clock here on Monday. Couple reasons why I bet this over, guys. First off, in college basketball, when you're betting the totals market or the sides market for that matter, it matters more the heavy favorite, what they want to do offensively. The better team usually controls tempo, and on top of that, the home team. But either way, I mean, Alabama's more than a 20-point favorite here. They really should run it up. And I'd love to go back and check when a head coach, a squad goes after in this profile, how they perform. And sure enough, Alabama runs it up on their opponent. Nate Oates, it's a quick offense, and they take kind of no prisoners here. Alabama, one of the fastest tempos in the country, and they're off of a loss to Clemson in front of their home fans. So, hey, I think they're going to be looking for some revenge. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama gets into the triple digits. If you go back and look when Alabama is a heavy favorite, they scored 105 points against Morehead State, 102 points against Indiana State, 102 points against South Alabama, 98 versus Mercer. They even scored 99 against Oregon. Guys, I could see this getting like 105 to, I don't know, 70, something in that nature. This could just be one of those that Alabama kind of really runs it up. I mean, if you can find a team total over there on Alabama, I'd like that as well. But in the markets that are available, at least by my books, I got on this over 164.5 is the number right now, guys. Primetime game, big Monday, Alabama, Arkansas State, up and over the total.
Yes, there is a sixth college basketball game today, everybody, as we go to the added board to discuss Maryland Eastern Shore at East Carolina. Only a game that I would want to break down here on WagerTalk TV. And while this may be the third straight road game for Maryland Eastern Shore, note they've had plenty of time off since the last one. It was 2 Saturdays ago. Last time we saw the Hawks, they were getting blown out by 37 against a Liberty team that was still undefeated at the time. Now, Maryland Eastern Shore was a 25-point dog going into that game. But what's interesting here, it's a drop in class going against East Carolina, but East Carolina is laying a bigger number than either Temple or Notre Dame did when those two teams faced the Hawks and hosted them for that matter. And that doesn't make a ton of sense to me, quite frankly. East Carolina, slightly lower in the Ken Pom ratings than both Notre Dame and Temple. The Pirates are really bad defensively, 315th in the country in adjusted efficiency, which of course measures the number of points allowed per 100 possessions. Furthermore, the last 6 times we've seen ECU lay 12.5 or more points at the betting window, they're just 1-5 against the spread. They've even lost outright twice during that time, including at home to USC Upstate earlier this season. I know the Pirates can score, and they're coming off a win over UNC Wilmington, which looks a lot better now since UNC Wilmington just upset Kentucky. But this seems like too many points for this team to be laying, especially when you consider the players and the coaching staff could very well be eyeing upcoming games against South Carolina and Florida over this one. WagerTalk.com live odds screen, it shows that this number's already moved from plus 16 to plus 15. That's good enough for me to say Maryland Eastern Shore is today's best bet. Now, if you're looking for my top college hoops play of the day, that is currently available at my page, wt.buzz/BP, as we look to make it 13 straight winners. Yes, we won perfect 12-0 over the last 3 days, 5-0 in the NFL on Sunday, 5-0 college football Saturday, and 2-0 in college hoops on Friday it was. So let's make this one lucky number 13. Once again, that's wt.buzz/BP.
You know, on a normal day, saying that Furman against Arkansas is one of the best games on the card may be a stretch. But today, you know, that's actually the case. It really is an interesting matchup here. And Furman actually has some advantages, but Arkansas, you know, does as well. So instead of attacking the side in this one again, I'm going back to the total here. I'm going up and over this 159 number here between these two teams. I mean, you look at what Furman's offense has actually done. It may be the impressive offensive team that you've really never paid attention to, and they're 27th in the nation in effective field goal percentage, over 56% as a team. They're 6th in the country, though, in 2-point field goal percentage. So even better from inside that 3-point line, shooting almost 62% as a unit. But, you know, 19th in the country with 47.2% of their points this season coming from beyond the 3-point line. So obviously the fastest way to get up and over the total is to put in those 3-point shots. And, you know, Furman may not be the most efficient at it, but they've definitely put up some numbers with their 3-point shooting because of the number of 3-point shot attempts that they've taken on the season. And the reason that I point that out is because that's been the biggest weakness without question for this Arkansas defense. I mean, they're 225th in the country, allowing over 34% from deep. And, you know, a huge part of Arkansas's offense has been their free throw shooting. So that obviously is going to stop the clock as well. That helps with these overs, I think, in my opinion, too, because you're getting those free points without taking that time off the clock. You know, over 25% of their points have come from the charity stripe. And you got a Furman defense that has pretty much struggled on all cylinders. They're not forcing turnovers. They're 274th in effective field goal percentage allowed. And they're just barely inside the top 300 in 2-point percentage allowed. So they have a definite height disadvantage here. So we're going to see, you know, I think we're going to see some mismatches here with Arkansas's inside play. But, that doesn't really carry out to the 3-point line where Furman has shown that they can put up some points. You look at the pace, both of these teams run at a relatively quick pace. And, I know we're early in the season, but I'm always looking at those trends and angles for these teams. I mean, Furman, 5-2 to the over on the season. Arkansas 7-1 to the over. So we got a combined 12-3 in their 15 games. Arkansas has gone over in 3 straight, and they've gone over in all 5 of their home games so far this season. They're putting up over 83 points per game themselves. So I do think that Furman has, the opportunity to score some 3-point shots here against this Arkansas defense and what they've been able to do. So I think they can help out with this total here as well. But I do anticipate that Arkansas, gets at least close to that 83 points per game marker on their home court here against this Furman defense. And I'm going up and over this total tonight, the 159 between Arkansas and Furman.